Brian, firstly on the Barnett formula, Scotland is not subsidised. I was down here last year. I probably made exactly the same argument. Every year for I think about 35 years, we've contributed more tax per head of population than the UK as a whole. Scotland is not subsidised. We're in deficit, as the UK is in deficit. But the idea that we are subsidised by transfers from London or any other part of England or the UK is just not the case. And I think although the referendum didn't go the way I wanted it to, one of the wonderful things about the referendum was the fact that people became very knowledgeable about these issues. And I think one of the things that irritated and annoyed a lot of people in Scotland was this idea that somehow we were subsidised and couldn't stand on our own 2 feet. In terms of your point about fiscal autonomy, I want Scotland to be independent, but I recognise the result of the referendum was such as it is, and for the time being we are not going to be independent, which is why, having during the referendum campaign been told by successive Westminster politicians that we were such an equal, integral, valued part of the UK, we are taking that at face value and now trying to make a progressive contribution to how the UK is governed. But short of independence, I will argue for as much power as we can hold in Scotland. I would like us to have full fiscal autonomy. The question you asked me, though, was in terms of the Scottish Parliament signing off on, and so what would we be prepared to settle for? I can't see us in the Scottish Parliament, unless a power that was being transferred in such a way that it would undermine our ability to use it or undermine our finances or whatever. We're never going to stand in the way of any new powers coming to the Scottish Parliament, even if they're not as extensive as we think they should be. So, the Calman Commission that led to the Scotland Act 2012. It's no secret we thought that was woefully inadequate, but we voted for it in the Scottish Parliament because we recognised it as progress, and that's the approach we will take. But in doing so, we will seek very hard to increase the proposals that are being made by Westminster parties, and if we have influence after the general election, we'll try to use that influence to up the offers that are being made. It's just worth, as my final point on this question, it's just worth reflecting on the fact that if you take the Smith Commission proposals, if they are implemented in full, and let's assume they will be for the purposes of this, 70% of tax will still remain in the hands of Westminster, and 85% of our social security budget will still remain at Westminster. Now, 70% of tax and 85% of social security still feels to me that the balance is horribly wrong in terms of Westminster government versus home rule. So we'll argue for more and ultimately for fiscal autonomy, and ultimately, of course, we'll continue to argue the case for independence.